Yeah, Galentine's Day. All right. If anybody else doing Galentine's Day down there, they're not going to admit it now after we didn't got on them. Shout out to Jamisha for making a new holiday. Tavares, go ahead and come on up, brother. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, folks. All right, I'm trying to do. See, I'm trying to monitor. I'm trying to pull people up and do all that. All right, I'm not gonna be able to do that. All right, folks. Today we're going to be talking about. Let me take this. Let me take this down. Today we're going to talk about all the different types of creative financing and doing all that cool stuff. We are on YouTube, primarily on Clubhouse, but now we're live streaming to Instagram for the two people watching me on there. We just want to thank you, folks. I tell you, man. Oh man, I'm having a pretty good morning though. So we go jump into it pretty quick. Jamisha, tell everybody who you are and where you from, sis.
Jamisha Norwood in Indianapolis, Indiana. Didn't even say that. What else? Real estate agent for the last 15 years. Been in the industry for over 22. What else? That's about it. I'll just keep it brief.
All right. Next. All right. All right. Country fella, tell everybody who you are, where you from, sir.
What's happening, great people? Country fella here from the Carolinas. Long-term buy and hold investor. 4 Data Points Academy student. Trying to bust a contract in the head this morning.
You need help with it?
No. Hopefully not. I know you've been acting a little funny lately. I'm about to get my plane ticket going, but see if we figure it out. I just need to get out of this one. I'm offering some incentives to get me on out of here.
Okay. Well, let me know, man. I can I'm a salve with the documents. All right. You got my cell phone number.
All right.
Tavares, what's up, brother?
What's happening? Grand Rising, everybody. I'm Tavares from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a health and transformation educator, founder of the Body Synthesis, where we mitigate health risks through nutrient-rich coaching. And I also serve as the manager here at 4 Data Points as the student relations manager, And I spent about 10 and a half years, or just over 10 and a half years in the multifamily industry. Started off as a concierge, made my way up to a business manager. I've leased everything from residential to high-rise luxury, from the Bay to LA. And I'm grateful to be here. Odis, my brother, let me just say I love you. I appreciate it. Before we got on the call, Odis and I had a call, and Odis blessed me with some words, had a tough last 24 hours. So I just wanted to highlight my brother Odis for just being there, for stepping into a position and a space with me and giving me God's word. You know, it's amazing what comes through you, the word, the passion, just what comes through you, my brother, the way that you reach out and touch everybody. And so I just want to lift you up. I just wanted to highlight you. I thank you so very much for what you blessed me with just in the last 20 minutes. You really came through. You're there for me. So I had to show up for my brother, and I always will. I love you. Let's get it.
Amen. Amen. That ain't me, man. It just sounds like me. But the Holy Spirit will come down and he'll do everything that needs to be done. Sometimes we don't even know what to do, how to do it, what to say, how to feel about it. All you got to do is say that one word, man. You can always go back to that one word, and then you don't have to figure out anything else. If he is who he says he is, all you got to do is say, Lord, help. Jesus, help. Fixes everything. So that ain't. I would love to take the credit. You know, you can call me handsome, or you can call me some stuff I will take the credit for. But yeah, it's all him, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for just sharing your light, man. I really needed that, and I'm just grateful to you. I'm grateful for your personality. I'm grateful for your energy and your willingness to put yourself out there, no matter who's watching, no matter what they say. I just can't thank you enough for what you just did for me. Like I said, I can't thank you enough. You really talked me off the ledge, and I appreciate that. You know, I'm an imperfect human being like many of us in this room, and I struggle and I grind to be a better version of myself every single day. So I hope that us being here in this space and being so transparent and vulnerable with you all is a sign of strength. That's what I teach to all my members. Walk into it and embrace the vulnerability, because in that space you will find strength. So again, Odis, I love you. I thank you. Let's get it today, man.
Right on, man. Right on. No, that's all God, bro. Look, you know how we came up. We were that was all, that was all God. If He can fix us, anything is possible. So,
True.
shout out. I think somebody else was trying to come up on stage. Can one of you guys pull the? I think somebody got their hand up. Can you pull that person up on
I
stage?
invited him up.
All right, folks. Well, my name is Odis James. I'm a full-time real estate investor out of the San Francisco Bay Area, licensed real estate broker in California, licensed real estate broker in Georgia. I'm licensed in insurance. I'm not in the insurance business, but so I can speak intelligently about it, I went ahead and got licensed. Spent the better part of 15. I don't know. I can't count all 15 because we was basically going out of business. We was going out of business the last 3 years. We were just in denial. But I ran a mortgage company with my father, Otis Douglas James Jr. It was called Mortgage of the Rock. And I think we funded just short of $1 billion. We weren't tracking it to the penny, but we were running up on $1 billion funded. I spent the better part of 20 years in the multifamily commercial industry. So I went in there after I went into that industry when things went bad for me, and then rose up the ranks and exited at the corporate level, overseeing $650 million in multifamily commercial assets. I'm the founder of the 4 Data Points Academy. We take people with zero knowledge or intermediate knowledge too, not just people with zero knowledge, and we stay with them until they are seasoned real estate investors. We don't have an end date. We do it for as long as it takes because we grade ourselves on people's ability to actually go out there and do the thing, and not just how many people we can run through our program. So there is no end date, and the learning is continuous, and we focus on the support we give people during the practical application of what they learn when we go over the fundamentals. I'm a long-term hold investor. I invest all over the country. I'm not biased to any one real estate investing strategy. I approach real estate investing training a little differently. I believe you should teach people all of the things and let them determine which of the things is most suitable for the specific scenario they're going through at the time. So we don't just teach tax deeds. We don't just teach, creative finance. We teach everything, because as a seasoned real estate investor, you have to know everything. Also understand that if you want to be a seasoned real estate investor, you got to be willing to go through the seasoning process. What is the seasoning process? Navigating when bad things happen, period. And bad things will happen. We teach people how to mitigate risk. We focus on that first. We teach people how to assess deals. We focus on that second. And then everybody's path is going to be different. Some people are okay, making, maybe they just want to generate $80,000, $90,000 a year from real estate investing. And and bless those people too. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. People understand that there's more to life than money. And if you got people who love you and you're in good relationships and you don't have any financial hardships and you can invest here, and I get that. But there's also those people that they want to hit the millions, and we can take them there too. I've done it time and time again. So I'm not
I
teaching.
love to rape black women and children with my tiny white cock. I love to fuck black kids. I love to fuck them till they have 2 black eyes. I love the
Okay. All right.
Who was that?
I don't know. Somebody trolling. The devil be trying to do his thing.
You know what?
Yeah.
You said that to me earlier, bruh, and you ain't ever lied, bruh.
Yeah. It's I don't have those things. Don't bother me, man. I don't, because that guy's hurting, and we got to pray for people that we don't like praying for. It's easier to pray for people we like, right? Oh, let me pray for this person. They just paid my rent for me. But we got to pray for folks that that guy's going through a dark place. Just to say some things like that, that guy's going through a dark place. But we're not dead. It didn't kill us. And
Let's keep moving. Keep it moving.
We keep it moving. But we like to make sure that people have all of the knowledge that they need, and that knowledge is going to evolve over time. And the reason, again, one of the many reasons we don't put an end date on it is because the investor you are when you come into our program is not going to be the investor you are 5 years down the line or whenever, right? So we need to be able to evolve with people, and we don't stop until they are self-sustaining. So their capacity may change. Maybe they'll be seasoned and we'll invest together and do some cool stuff like that. But the goal is to create 1,000 real estate investors. We're well on our way, and that's who I am. Any questions about anything in the real estate space before we get started? I just want to make sure that I can go over just some one-offs. Let me see. We'll probably run for about an hour today. and we'll see how it goes. Tavares, if you can you kind of check the chat for me and make sure that there's no questions in there to start? And if anybody else wants to come up on stage, feel free to do that. I'm doing this on an Android today. I've because I have an Android that had no service, so I don't have to worry about people interrupting me on my iPhone and all that other stuff, calling and texting. If we do get interrupted today on this, you guys just bear with me, because it will likely be from somebody in our real estate family. And we have some people walking projects today and going through scopes of work. And, I've had to intervene and get involved in helping them navigate a few things. And, the folks that are in our real estate family come first. So if you see me, just say, I'll excuse myself. You'll still hear me, but, I'll be navigating some issues for those folks. All right. Anybody, anybody? Emmett, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Hey, Odis, I just tapping in. I'm making my way down here to the Wayne County Sheriff's Cell and listening to you guys. Y'all keep me motivated. I'm in this room, keep me on my toes, things to look for, and a lot of pitfalls. And I like to share this room and tell everybody about you. I got friends in San Mateo, and they're on the verge of trying to figure it out, where they want to buy a house there, and I've encouraged them to try to find something that's a value add, and I tell them about the room. I just wanted to add something real quick. Just a heads up, I did email you. I don't know if I sent it to the right one. It was the info at 4 data points.
When did you send it?
Something last week.
Okay, I missed it. You're gonna have to send it again.
Okay.
You got my cell number. Just shoot me a text. I'll reach out to you. I'll call you.
Okay.
Yeah. Your folks in San Mateo, just have them reach out to me. Do you have my number, Emmett? Emmett, you still there?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm hands free here. In Detroit, we had a snowstorm, so it's a little slick on the road.
No,
I like to think I did have a number. I'm gonna look back, because like I would receive a text response back from you.
Okay.
But I'll check in my email.
Yeah, or just reach out to me, or just send it again. Your friends in San Mateo, I'll take care of them, man. If they're looking to buy a house, I've got good people up here that they can trust, and if I can't find nobody, I'll help them and take care of them. So,
sure thing. I'm appointing to you.
Amen. Yeah, I'm in San Mateo. Shout out to San Mateo. What's up, Remy Jules? Can somebody pull Remy Jules up here? All right. So let's get into some of the things we're going to discuss today. So and we're going to do a full training on this probably tonight, actually, for you guys in our real estate family. So I'm going to give you the high level description of what these things are when it comes to the seller financing strategies. So I break it down, right? There's seller financing, there's hybrid and seller lender combinations, there's partnerships and joint ventures. We have private lending, we have alternative loans, and of course we have bank and institutional lending and some alternatives to those. We've got the government stuff that I really don't deal in too much, only because they're typically for buying your primary residence. But I'm going to go over them very, very briefly, just so you guys can understand what they are. We've got wholesale and assignment strategies. We got the BRRRR and value add strategies. Like, there's literally 35, 40 different ways that you can bring in the different types of lending. So what's up, Remy? How you doing, brother?
What's up, man? That was Remy Jules. That what got me feeling like a celebrity, man. How you doing? I hope all is well. Peace and blessings to everybody in the room. I'm excited, man, to learn. Hey, I gotta tell you, man, we gotta catch up, man. I gotta let you know what's going on the Elgin property, man. And the VA reached out to me, man. They want that building. They're looking to do alternative housing for veterans.
Okay.
They don't have anything between San Antonio and the Temple area where the veteran hospital is. Yeah. So they're looking to convert that. So I had a good conversation with Miss Tanisha Edwards. So we need to set up that call, bro.
I'll call you right after this.
Sounds like a plan, my brother.
Well, I got to call my dad. I'll call you after I call my dad. How about that?
Okay. And then one more thing I wanted to tell you, man. So Shout out to you for the creative financing sub 2 method, man. We was able to close on a 3-bed, 3-bath home, fully furnished. I can
Nice.
send you the receipts.
Okay.
So I can send you the contract and I can send you the receipts, man. So we was able to get that going today, right around the corner, fully furnished. It was a pain point for a single mother, man. She was just, basically drowning in debt, man. And she just wanted to get out of the mortgage, man. And she allowed us to take over the property, man, completely, fully furnished. She left the car in the garage, bro.
I heard that.
You know what I mean?
She left the
She just said,
Pacer in there?
She literally did, man. A nice little Hyundai SUV, man. But she's like, hey, I'm gonna come back and get my baby stuff. She hasn't been back to the property since Thanksgiving of last year. So but fully furnished, everything's good to go, man. I'm gonna send you the pictures, man. But it's a beautiful, beautiful property, man. I built in 2021. Yes, sir.
Amen. Did is she, does the single mom, does she need the car?
Listen, man, I was trying to figure that part out. I was trying to figure that part out. I said,
find out. I can put something. I can put something together for her to lease the car from the owner too. So just let me know.
I think so. Yeah, man. It's a beautiful property, man. She literally let the furniture go for $3,500. We included it in the deal. So
there you go.
Fully furnished, man, ready to go. Yes, sir.
I love to hear it. That's what's up. All right, let's jump into it. What's up, Alphalandis? I see you down there, brother. All right. So all the seller financing strategies. So let's talk about seller financing strategies first, right? All the creative financing strategies, but I classified them. So let's talk about the seller financing first. So there's basically eight of them that you guys are probably familiar with. Owner financing is when the seller acts as a lender, providing a loan to the buyer. All right. A contract for deed or a land contract. It's number 2. So the buyer makes the payments to the seller, but the seller retains title until it's paid off. Lease option. Lease option is more of a rent to own. So we're going to take we're going to spend a little time on that one because that's probably one of the most common, especially for people looking to buy their own house. Lease purchase agreement. So the tenant agrees to buy at a set price after the lease term. A lease option and a lease purchase is, I'll make that distinction in a bit. Wraparound mortgage. So the seller holds a new loan amount that wraps around an existing mortgage, right? So I'll tap into that too. Subject to is what Remy was just talking about. So just think of it as an existing mortgage takeover. So the buyer takes over the seller's mortgage payments without formally assuming the loan. And then you have an assumption of the mortgage where the buyer formally assumes the seller's mortgage with lender approval. And then you have an agreement for sale. So the buyer gains equitable title and makes payments to the seller without taking full ownership. So we're going to spend some time on a few of these to give you guys kind of and I'm creating I'm redoing a lesson. I'm going to have a lesson for you guys in our real estate family that is more comprehensive, that outlines just about all of these. So it's going to take me some time because that lesson alone, I could probably turn into a book. But I want to simplify it, cut out all the fat so you guys can reference it when you guys are looking for how to navigate a particular situation. Taylor Made, what's going on, brother? All right, here we go. Sorry. All right, I get distracted easy. Owner financing. Anybody? Let me see who's on stage right now. Okay, owner financing is basically, let's say Jamisha has a house. I want to buy it for $100,000. There's no mortgage on it. If there was a mortgage on it, it would be subject to, right? And I don't want to go to a traditional bank. So if I have Jamisha seller finance it, there's just a few things that have to be in play. One is we've got to come to an agreement. Can somebody bring credit goddess up here? One, we got to come to an agreement on the terms of the financing, right? Yeah, this is getting distracting. We got to come to an agreement on the terms of the financing, and we have to have a document to evidence that debt. Okay, so if I'm buying a house from Jamisha for 100 grand, that's the first term that's going to be on that piece of paper. And that piece of paper is called a promissory note. Okay. Some other things that are going to be on that piece of paper are things like, what interest am I paying, if any, right? What interest am I paying? How long do I have to pay it back? Do I have a balloon payment, which means we can stretch the payment out over 30 years but is there a balloon payment in the next few years that require me to pay off the remaining balance? And that's very, very common, right? Also, is there any, let me see, one-offs that you would put on a note, right? Where do I make the payments? When do I make the payments? What happens if I'm late? What's the penalty? So all these things are on the promissory note. And you can go into eForms or Rocket Lawyer. Drafting a note is not very hard, but let me tell you how I manage that when I am actually doing a seller finance deal. The other document is a security instrument. Security instrument is when registered with the county, it takes that note, that debt, and attaches it to the property in the form of a lien. Okay. And a lien is a debt against property that if the property's refinanced or sold, the liens get paid first. And it's up to the closing company to look and determine which liens are on the property. All right. Now, let's look at drafting a note. You can go into eForms, Rocket Lawyer. You just answer all the questions. Okay. You folks in our real estate family, I know I draft some notes for you guys, but it's very just until you learn how to do it. But then typically I only have to do it one time. And as soon as I talk you through it, then you can do it on your own. Now, when I hire a closing company to manage a deal like this, even a seller financing deal where there's no lender involved, the reason I do that is because I want to make sure everything is in place. I want to make sure that there's no clouds on title. A cloud on title is just funny business out of the ordinary going on with the ownership of the property. I want to make sure that I can get title insurance, right? I want to make sure that everybody is coordinating, right? Because it's going to be a traditional purchase outside of the lending side. So Jamisha and I are going to have a purchase agreement in place that outlines the details of the purchase, how much I'm buying it for, when we're going to close, what type of financing I'm using. So I provide that documentation to the closing company, the title company, and they're going to facilitate everything. Now, even when I draft my own note, right? And this is how I teach it when we're in class. When I draft my own note, I don't use the note that I draft. The only reason that I draft that note is so I can email it along with my other documentation to the closing company, and the closing company can look at my note and then they can draft the note on their side. Okay. So they're going to draft the security instrument. They're going to draft the note. They're going to have all of the documentation. They're going to know who's supposed to do what in this transaction. They're going to make sure we're not missing any steps. So when Jamisha and I walk away from the closing table, I now own the house and Jamisha is now my lender. And that debt is attached to the house and I just start making payments. So with seller financing, there is no exchange of money. As soon as those documents are fully executed, then that debt is birthed out of thin air. Okay. And I just start making payments on it. I think that's the part people kind of have a tough time with. Right. So it's very, very easy to do. But just because, I got to caution you, just because you can do seller financing or a seller's willing to do it, allow you to do it, doesn't mean it's still a good deal, even if it doesn't cost you anything to get into it. So you got to really read those documents to make sure you're going to have the ability to exit. Now, before doing any seller financing or any type of transaction, you got to run the 4 data points on the property. So I'm going to take you back to basics for 1 second. The 4 data points are 4 questions that you ask when considering any real estate asset, whether it's a single family home, whether it's a 2,000 unit development, whether it's a condo, whatever it is. Those 4 questions are, Jamisha, are you there? Actually, somebody on stage tell me what those 4 questions are. Not all at once. Yeah, no. If we could just form a single file line.
What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What is my after repair value? And how much income will it generate?
Exactly. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income will it generate? Right. And you do that regardless of the asset class. Now, what you do with the answers is different based on the asset class, but we can, multifamily commercials value differently. We can have that conversation later. Okay. So you still want to ask those 4 questions and having an understanding of what to do with the answers. I have a guide for that. It's free. You guys can download it. I know looking in this audience, most of you guys already have it. Just go to 4datapoints.net. The number 4, DATAPOINTS. Tavares, if you're not driving, can you put that in the chat? 4datapoints.net. and
Got you.
and just download the guide. Don't do anything without mastering that guide first. All right. You can find it at 4datapoints.net. Now, that being said, let's get into a contract for deed. Contract for deed, I typically don't do. And a contract, it's also called a land contract. It's where the buyer makes payments to the seller, but the seller retains title until it's paid off. Because I'm a value add investor, I have to make things worth more than I bought them for. And I do that by using other people's money. But I can't use other people's money on a property that I don't own. So a contract for deed or a land contract has its place, but for a value add investor, we may not gravitate towards that, right? There are some scenarios where it's fine, right? Contract for deed is fine. But again, it's not about the creative financing type so much. It's more about using the right type for the right scenario. Okay. There are no bad mortgage products. They're just misused. Okay. Now, any questions about that? Let me see. I see we got some. Do we have some questions in the chat for us?
No, we don't.
All right. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, folks, they're reaching out to me. All right. So now let's get into lease options. Now, you guys, I think we did a whole room on lease options. Was it last week? Buying property with your own, or using lease options to buy your own property. So lease options, think of them as rent to own. Okay. Now, this is my go-to when I come across people that want to use real estate investor strategies to buy their first house or their own primary residence, because they don't want to throw money away on rent. And I have to kindly remind them that they are not throwing money away on rent, because while they were there, they got value. So they were paying for the value, the roof over their head during the time. It's not throwing away money. Okay. So, we can have is it better to buy or rent conversation all day. I look at the math and I look at which path is the quickest path to wealth. Now, as somebody that is paying, $1,300 a month in property taxes alone, along with a $6,000 mortgage, I would be ecstatic to go rent somewhere and just buy investment properties, right? It's a level of convenience that I can appreciate with that. But, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Anybody trying to make the determination on what they should do, just look at the math. The math will not lie to you. People who have something to sell you will. So understand the math so you can make the best decision on your own. Amen. All right. So a lease option is also 2 documents. It's a traditional lease. And then there's a separate document called an option agreement. That option agreement allows you to exercise your option to purchase at any time during that process. Let me not say any time. You can determine, whoever drafts the documents can determine the terms. Okay. So it's a traditional lease, and a lease option is good not just for buyers, but for sellers also. The reason a lease option is good for sellers, or people who own the property, is because you can make money on it 3 different ways. There's an option fee, which is non-refundable. It's an upfront fee that allows you to provide the right for them to purchase at a later date. That's what they're purchasing. So it's an option fee, and you can determine what that is up front. Then there's the rental income that you get. Now, I typically increase it to maybe 1 or 2% just over market, depending on what market we're in, maybe 3 or 4%, maybe 10%, right? Depends on what the market is. And what I'll do is I will book a portion of that to give them, should they exercise the option to purchase it, so that they're not purchasing 100% of it. They're already in it. Maybe they only have to go get financing for 95%. So maybe I'll give them 5% as a down payment. I'll gift them 5% as a down payment. Well, hopefully that 5% gift comes in the form of equity that is increased or accumulated while they were there. So it's not a hard gift, right? It's a soft gift. But it makes it easier for them to get in, so they don't have to come up with a down payment. They've got a good rental history. The bank is typically, a traditional bank's going to want 24 months in the form of a verification of mortgage. So I say all that to say it'll help them get in easier. All right. and you make money from the actual sale of the property. And that sale price can be determined in the beginning, or you can have language in there that puts the sale price at the current market value at the time. Again, it depends on how you write it. You folks that are in our real estate family, if you guys are looking to do a lease option, just bring it to class, and I will and we'll see what the best way to go about it is. Make sure you're protected. All right, but a lease option is not that out of the ordinary, because there are legitimate people. It's not just people with bad credit and going through problems that can utilize lease options. People coming over on work visas that don't have a social security number yet, people that are reestablishing their credit, right? If they're reestablishing their credit and they're in a lease option and the opportunity to purchase the property is over the horizon, then they're going to take better care of the property, right? And again, you can structure that lease any way you want. Before you do a lease option, make sure you understand the rules in your particular state. There are some states that can trigger a due on sale clause on your current mortgage if you do a lease option the wrong way. So just understand before you guys go out and do any of these things on your own, you understand everything about them, not just what you see on TikTok and Instagram. Oh, by the way, Tavares, I'm gonna text you my maybe you can put this in the chat for me, because I need y'all's help. I sent this message out to about I think I sent it out to about 6,000 people, and I'm gonna share this link. Hold on. About 6,000 people to follow us on TikTok, and I think 4 did, because I don't think
That's okay.
I don't think people knew it was me, but I think some people did. Some people had to know it was me because I sent it out through where I send everything else out. My little feelings was hurt. I woke up the next morning to look at our new TikTok page, and I was like, we broke the internet. 64. It's like 64. I had 63 when I went to sleep. So anyway, if you guys can help us out by following our TikTok page. All right.
Hey,
Yeah.
you want me to post that not in the chat or just send it out?
No, you can post it in the chat. Well, you can do both. Shoot, if you could.
All right, cool.
But post it in the chat.
Sorry about that. Did you already answer questions regarding some of the pitfalls regarding, I think you said creative financing, right?
The pitfalls. Well, so there's pitfalls in all of them, right? There's a pitfall to everything. So if you're doing straight seller financing, the pitfall is you can get foreclosed on if you don't make the payments. That's the only pitfall, right? If you do a contract for deed, which is where the buyer makes the payments to the seller, but the seller retains ownership until it's paid off, well, you can't borrow against it, right? So there's always going to be pitfalls, but understanding them. And a pitfall really isn't a pitfall in a lot of these. A pitfall is just an indication that you're using it for the wrong purpose. That's what makes it a pitfall, right?
Okay.
But anything you come into agreement with, if you default, that's the pitfall for the most part. So I typically look at what's the safest and what helps me accomplish what I need to accomplish. Sometimes I could make a choice. For example, if I want to tie a property up because I'm waiting to exit on another project that's going to give me an influx of cash to do what I want to do with this new subject property I may be looking at, I can tie it up with a lease option, and then exercise my option to purchase when the time comes, or I can use subject to for 4 or 5 months and then exit out of it the way I would normally exit out of subject to. So there's always a way to do it. You just got to understand what you're doing. And a lot of people rush in, and then by the time they come to me, it's too late. So my biggest complaint is, man, I wish I would have known about you earlier. Well, I don't know what to tell you, baby. All right. So we talked about lease purchase. So a lease purchase is good for buyers and sellers. You get to make money 3 ways on a lease purchase. The upfront option fee you can charge, and they are buying the option to purchase at a later date. The increase in market rent that you can allocate a portion of it to help them with their down payment to get in, or you cannot, right? From the actual sale itself, if they choose to exercise their option. Now, if you do a lease option and you go 1 year, 2 years, you can renew the lease as many times as you want to, right? You get to determine what the terms are. But let's say you got somebody in there on a lease option and they're there 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then they decide to move out and they don't want to exercise their option. Well, you were renting the property out anyway. You would have rented it out anyway. So you came up. You got the option fee, you've got the increase in market rent, and you can just do it again, or you can just lease it out on a traditional lease. So you got options there with that. And the folks that are engaging in lease options from the buyer side, that's good for you too. Doesn't require a credit check typically. right? It doesn't require, somebody bring Karen up here. She has a question. It doesn't require a huge down payment. It does require an option fee, but you can negotiate that, right? So you've got some benefits also, all right? That being said, wraparound mortgage. I never use this. Oh, okay. No worry, Karen. I never use a wraparound mortgage, but a wraparound mortgage, it's where the seller holds a new loan that wraps around an existing mortgage. You folks on the West Coast may call it a all-inclusive deed of trust or an all-inclusive trust deed. Folks, y'all ain't gonna use that. But I figure I can put it on here and make me sound way smarter than I am and introduce you to something you ain't never gonna use. It's just some stuff is just to make me sound smart, right? Let me throw this in there. Ain't nobody gonna know what that is. So it's a wraparound mortgage. I guess I could compare it most closely to subject to. Right. So the seller holds a new loan that wraps around an existing mortgage. The operative phrase being existing mortgage. Okay. They already got a mortgage on it, and then they give you another mortgage that overshadows the existing mortgage. So, for example, if they have an existing mortgage at 5% to their bank, they go ahead and give you a mortgage that wraps around that mortgage for, let's say, 7%. And out of that, they pay the existing mortgage, their 5%, and they pocket the other 2%. But again, there's better ways to go about what you're trying to accomplish. But it is what it is. Now, subject to. This is people have courses around this. Let me not poo on anybody's dreams. And let me also say that maybe I just don't think it requires a course because I got to be careful with. Okay, I got to be careful. Maybe I'm just so familiar with it. I think it doesn't require a course, but it may to somebody who's never done it. Okay, I got it. There's a disclaimer. Am I all right? Am I still getting in heaven? All right. So subject to. The buyer takes over the seller's mortgage payments without formally assuming the loan. I don't like to do subject to for too long because there's too much uncertainty that can happen. And in my opinion, the longer you do it, the bigger issue that you can have. But there are circumstances where it's the best option. Just because it's not the best option for me doesn't mean that it's not the best option for someone else given their circumstances. So it's my job to teach my real estate family how to determine if that's the best option for them at the time. And at the end of the day, all these are just tools, right? If you're building a house, you're not going to only use a hammer. You're going to use whatever tool is needed to get that part of the house done. I was so proud of that analogy. I'm gonna have to find a new one. I'm retracting that. All right. So subject to, there's some things you got to understand about subject to. There's something called the due on sale clause, which means there's a clause in the existing mortgage agreement that says if you transfer title from the person who initiated the mortgage to anyone else or any other entity, then that's a violation of the mortgage agreement. They can call the entire loan due. Now, there's a way around that. Under the Garn St. Germain Act of 1982, I believe, the trust is exempt from that. So you can transfer it into a trust. When you start getting into trust, make sure you guys have qualified people facilitating this for you. You can transfer it into a trust, and that is not a violation of the mortgage agreement. But again, you got to make sure you're doing it the way it's supposed to be done. So we are I think I'm going to add a week. What's up, James? I think I'm going to, Tavares, can you put that green button on, James? I think I'm going to add it to our curriculum as a standalone week, in addition to the creative financing. So we're going to do internally, we're going to do a class on subject to. I mean, I talk about these things here on these platforms, but I can't take a deep dive into them. It requires visuals. It requires us understanding the documentation. It requires a lot more than just me talking about it, right? But just know you guys are in our real estate family. We're going to take a deep dive into this. Matter of fact, I may do it tonight. All right. So number 7, and we're talking about seller financing strategies. And so we went through owner financing for you guys that are just joining, seller financing, which is the seller acts as a lender, providing a loan to the buyer. We talked about contract for deed or land contract, where the buyer makes payments until the property is paid off, but the seller retains title. We talked about lease option, which is, rent to own, right? Tenant rents with the option to purchase at a later date. Lease purchase agreement, tenant agrees to buy at a set price after the lease term. The difference between a lease option and a lease purchase is a lease purchase, you're purchasing it. It's not optional, you're purchasing it. So those are two different strategies. Just make sure you understand the difference. Talked about a wraparound mortgage where the seller holds a new loan that wraps around the existing mortgage. I use the example that the seller has an existing mortgage for 5%, right, that he's paying to his lender. He gives you a mortgage for 7%. Out of that 7%, the lender gets 5, he pockets 2. Also called an all-inclusive deed of trust for you West Coast folks, or us West Coast folks. Talked about subject to financing, right, where the buyer takes over the seller's mortgage payments without formally assuming the loan. It's a violation of the mortgage agreement if done wrong. You can utilize a trust. Trust is exempt from that violation under the Garden-St. Germain Act. Remember, you can still mess it up. Okay, so make sure you're doing it right. The assumption of mortgage, it's where you're formally assuming the seller's mortgage with lender approval. Okay, so you're going through the lender to do an assumption of mortgage. And then we have an agreement for sale where the buyer gains equitable title and makes payment to the seller without taking full ownership. That is almost like a land contract. Investors, we typically don't use that. But again, there are scenarios where we use some of these one-off things to get done what we need to get done. All right.
Hey, yo, question.
Yeah.
Naomi Rowe. Sorry, Naomi. She says, when you say you don't do sub to for too long, how long is too long? Thanks for the question, Naomi.
For me, I guess I don't stabilize the property with it. Like I don't do subject to and consider that my final exit. That's what I mean. If I'm doing subject to, I have an exit strategy to get it out of the subject to situation into a situation where I own it outright. So I use subject now, and I'm not saying that you can't use that for a permanent exit strategy, but the longer you do it, the more risk is involved, right? Unless you're doing it the right way. If you're using a trust, then maybe I'll be more apt to doing it for a longer term, but I don't see why I would have to. There's just better ways to exit out of it. And if I can't exit out of it, I'm probably not going to do it in the first place unless this is important, unless the business model that I'm attaching to it justifies me keeping it in that state, not geographical state, that state of being and subject to status. For example, if I was doing subject to for a property and the cash flow was so high that it made it worth it, then I would do it. I would do it the right way, make sure it's in a trust. I would do it the way it's supposed to. But that typically would involve an additional business model, like if I was making it a group home or an assisted living facility or something like that, where the cash flow was just way higher than a traditional lease, then I can justify it. But I got to be able to justify it. Okay, if I can't justify it, then it's going to increase the risk over a long period of time. There's just too many things that can go wrong. And I just, I got enough stuff going wrong in this world as a real estate investor. I need to control the controllables, and that's one of the controllables I can control. Amen. Amen. I feel like that was a lot to say. All right. I hope that answered the question.
You got it. It's good.
All right. Now, seller carryback. This is pretty common, especially for, you licensed real estate professionals. I've used a seller carryback many a times, and it's just partial financing, right? So the seller finances part of the purchase while the buyer secures a primary loan. All right. Seller carryback, it comes in the form of a second mortgage. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. It depends on the type of financing you're getting for the first part of the loan, the institutional financing. Now, if you're going through Chase or B of A or one of the conventional lenders that have to abide by the guidelines set by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, Fannie and Freddie set the guidelines, right? So they may have a restriction on any outside financing you can do in addition to theirs. Okay. So we have something called loan to value, and that's the bank saying we will loan you X amount of dollars relative to the value of the home. It's expressed as a percentage, really. We'll loan you 80% of the value, LTV, loan to value. It's really LTP if you're doing a purchase, loan to purchase, right? But that other 20%, that lender may say, but our combined loan to value is also 80%. Right? What that means is we'll loan you 80%, But the combined loan to value, which means all of the financing you can get, is also maxed at 80%. And since we're using up the whole 80% to loan you, you can't get any other financing. So you'll typically see it'll be like 80/80, right? LTV 80, CLTV 80. Now, if you see LTV or LTP 80, and then CLTV or CLTV, which means combined loan to value or combined loan to purchase, 100, that means they'll lend you 80% of the value or the purchase, but they'll allow up to 100% of the purchase to be financed, and that other 20% you can get from anywhere you want as a second mortgage. All right. I know that was a lot to say, right? So, as a real estate investor, what do you do if the first lender won't allow you to get financing from any other lender? Well, what I do, and I've explained this before, what I do is I'll still execute a seller carryback. I just won't record it. So I'll have the seller gift me the 20%. So I'm like, actually gift me the 20%. So the lender says, all right, cool. He's gifting you 20%. We'll fund the 80%. Now we can close. But I will give the seller all of the documentation that as soon as he records it, that's a second lien, right? So he gets his 20% back in the form of seller financing. All right. I just won't record it. That's the key. Don't record it until after you close. Food for thought. Seller second.
Hey,
Go ahead.
so are you notifying the lender that you got a gift, or you
Yes. They'll typically require some documentation for that, like a gift letter or something, right? So yeah, I'll tell the lender that they're gifting 20% equity, but that's typically reflected on the purchase agreement if you are buying the property. So it'll see a gift. It'll be on the purchase documents. So you won't even have to
so
notify.
and you don't have problems with the lender feeling like you don't have any skin in the game in that particular instance?
No. But there is skin in the game in the lender's eyes, because the lender is financing it with 20% equity. So if the lender has to foreclose, that 20% equity is in there. Now, after you close, the lender has no jurisdiction on what else you can do, what other additional debt you can bring to that house.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just trying to check my language because I've had this issue where, because I was getting a seller holdback, they wanted me to provide POF for a different 20% as opposed to what the seller was giving.
Was that a
So
hard
they
money
wanted
lender or a
that.
conventional financing?
Well, they said they were hard. They were advertised as hard money.
Yeah, so hard money lenders have their own rules, right? They have their own rules. I'm talking about, so for a hard money lender, that's what I'll do. Okay. But I won't tell the hard money lender I'm doing a seller carryback. I'll just say, hey, they're gifting me 20%. What's your guys' process? And they'll either say, oh, well, we do it or we don't. So either they'll allow it or they don't. Now, hard money lenders typically have investors that are funding. They look like institutional lenders, but most of them are not. So each hard money lender can have their own rules. But if you go with a conventional lender, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac set the rules. And those rules can change. So I always tell people check. Now, gift equity, when you're talking about a conventional mortgage, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, they have that process. Each hard money lender is going to have a different process. So depending on what their process is, then you can navigate it based on that.
Hey, yo, we have another question.
Go ahead.
From Valerie Robinson. If a property is in trust on the county auction, is it worth going after the property? Thank you for the question, Valerie.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what it's in, because it's gonna be out of that when you purchase it. And if it's at county auction, guess what? It ain't in trust no more. Technically it is in trust. Okay, technically it is in trust, but that trust has no jurisdiction. If it's at auction, then it doesn't matter what it's in. That's the short answer. All right. I trust the protection of that trust is lost if it's at auction. All right. So now the two. Go ahead.
Go ahead. How about if it's in probate?
If it's in probate, I don't mess with probate.
Okay.
I don't mess with probate. It's too. I know some people that do that exclusively, and they make some really good money doing it. But as a real estate investor, I'm not dealing with the heirs and all that emotional turmoil going on and relatives
Mhm.
fighting over. I do not have the time or the patience.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. And there's just easier ways to make money for me, and I'm not doing that. I'm
Thank
just
you
not.
for
Yeah, man. I didn't see some I didn't see some messy family issues going on with respect to probate.
Mhm.
Amen. All right. So seller carryback and seller second mortgage, they are similar, but they're not necessarily the same. Okay. Now, a seller carryback means that second mortgage is being facilitated by the seller. A seller second mortgage can be facilitated by any outside party. All right. I've lent on properties and I was the mortgagor, right? The second mortgagor. Right. So a seller, a seller second mortgage, nah, it's the same. It's about the same. I should have added a third one in here that just says a general second mortgage. A second mortgage doesn't have to be um, by the seller. It could be any outside financing. So seller second mortgage, the seller finances a second mortgage to cover part of the down payment. Seller carryback, the seller finances part of the purchase while the buyer secures a primary loan. Okay, I can see the difference of that. I can see the difference of that. That's pretty close. All right, now we're just grasping at straws. Okay, why did I add that one in here? Oh, I took this from the notes from my other. Okay, all right. Any questions about any of that stuff? Again, there's no wrong mortgages. There's just good mortgages that are used wrong. Okay, go ahead, Tavares. You get another one. Are you going into deals with the mindset of Tavares? Can you read that question from Brandon? I saw it.
Let me see. Brandon, he says, are you going into deals with the mindset of nothing personal? It's just business. Thank you, Brandon.
Yes and no. Yes and no. So I teach it one way, but I do it a different way many times. And I teach it because when I'm teaching someone, I'm teaching them how to make a profit and the proper mechanics to accomplish that. I do it differently because I'll be in the middle of a transaction or the middle of something, some type of deal, and then something will just be like, see, you just hear it in somebody's voice that everything ain't all right, right? You ever have that conversation? And
Mm-hmm.
I've stopped mid transaction and said, "Hey, man, this is going to sound awkward, but my spirit, I'm feeling in my spirit that you're having a tough time with something, and then it'll shift, right? It'll shift from profit to service. And there's been times where I pulled out of deals because this person, if I'd have went through with that deal, this person wasn't going to be able to land on their feet. And I didn't have the liquidity at the time to fix 100% of their problem, but I was able to buy them some more time until they figured it out because this person had some job issues. And so I kind of schooled them on how to approach that. And I was able to buy them about 6 months. And then, but I didn't get that property. It just wasn't mine to get. And it goes back to, we get to determine what type of real estate investors we want to be. Are we the real estate investors that are just going after money, right? Money, money, money. I get it. It's a business and you've got to make good business decisions, but at what cost? And we have some rules for Data Points Academy. You've heard me and James, say some of these. And one of them is I will not put a person out on the street for personal gain. Now, there's situations where they're going to be put out on the street regardless of whether I'm involved or not, right? But at least I can make it a soft landing and see what I can do to include them on my to bring them in on my exit, to maybe put some money in their pocket. It depends on what the situation warrants. So my mindset, I'm at a stage of my life, man, where I didn't already realize that money is not going to be the thing that brings me the most fulfillment. Giving it away does, that brings me fulfillment. So I do think sometimes I do things different than I teach, because when people pay me to teach them, I'm teaching them how to make money, right? I share my perspective on, how I engage with people that are in tough situations, but they can do what they want. So to answer the question is yes and no. All right.
Thank you. We have one more from Valerie. She said,
Hang on, man, before you go to the next question, I just want to chime in a little bit on that.
So from a business perspective, obviously that's kind of the lens that I look at things for as a business advisor. The deal evaluation, that's not personal. And it's very important for people to take the emotion out of that piece of it when you're evaluating deals. So before you get involved in deals, it is very important to take emotion out of that piece of it. But then afterwards, it's also really important to understand it. This is about people. And when you're dealing with real estate, inevitably, we recognize that we're going to come across people in tough situations. And that's all that stuff that Odis is talking about. And, we want to be good people, right? And have compassion and all that sort of stuff. And, how to have a set of values that guide us. But, in the beginning, when we're evaluating deals, it's very important to take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, man. I always use the example, tax deeds. And I'll go in some of these places and look at like the tax deed list and some of the places that do actually post it. And I can look at the address and I can see what the tax delinquency is. And there was cases where, and I'll do a Google Street View of the address. And I was looking at one. This is when I stopped doing this. I stopped messing with tax deeds. Now, before I say that, there's nothing wrong with doing tax deeds. There's people that make good money in it, good people that aren't hurting anybody. This is personal preference only. So just because I don't do it, I'm not saying that you guys shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that people who do it are not good people, right? All I'm saying is there's certain things that I do to help me sleep at night, and my sleep at night is a lot better than the money that I would have made. So I was looking at this one tax deed, and I think it was $413. And I saw the address. I looked at the Google Street View, and it was relatively recent. It was like within the last 16 months, right, from the time that I was looking at it. And it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and you can see kids' toys on the Google Street View in the front of the house. So I'm thinking there's probably a family there or somebody with kids. And I already saw the tax deed, right? Like I already saw it. And I couldn't move on knowing that these people were going to lose their house over $413. Right? Because if they don't have $413, their situation is a lot worse than, So I just paid the tax deed, man. And there was a couple more in there, and I just paid those. And I couldn't afford to pay the whole city's tax deed, so I had to get out of there, man. But look, I'll teach you guys how to do it. You guys do what you want with it, right? But I'll tell you, on the way to the promised land ain't the promised land if you had to get there at the expense of, your spirit or just, you know what I'm saying? Like the mountaintop is only the mountaintop because there's no stress added and you didn't have to change who you are to get there. So there's just easier ways, folks. That's all. There's easier ways. All right. And by the way, you got to know the risk when you do tax deeds anyway, right? There's typically more risk than gain in a lot of these situations because people just think you can get a house for cheap. Folks, getting a cheap house does not mean it's a good investment. A cheap house can obligate you to costs outside of the typical cost, right? Now you own that house. Now you're responsible for all the code requirements, all of the code violations. The surrounding properties may not be worth enough for you to borrow money against the house to fix it up and all of these other things. So just know what you're doing. Okay. There's a reason I don't do certain things. And by the way, look at all these institutional investors. All of these cheap houses in the country, they know they're there. There's a reason they're not buying them. Okay. So, just know what you're doing. If a cheap house, be able to evaluate a cheap house to see if it's worth it. And I'll teach you guys how to do that, which is probably a good. All right. Go ahead. I'll do one question, then we'll do a good quick reset.
Hey, so we just did the hard money class. So, and to your point, one of the points that I made to people is when you buy a cheap house, you're basically obligating yourself to do everything all cash, right? So you buy a cheap house and it's got an $80,000 rehab, you better have $80,000 because you can't get a loan for that.
Well, even if you do have $80,000, you got to make sure you're not putting $80,000 into a house that's only worth 60 when you finish because the surrounding properties,
right.
So Even so, and that's not even always bad. Over improving a house is not always bad. But remember, as real estate investors, we have to look at everything. For every good, there's something to offset it. For all the bad, there's something to offset it. So let's say you do over improve a house and you have your $80,000, into that house, and now you're all in on a house. Let's say you got the house for free. Let's go extreme with it. Let's say you put $80,000 into a house that's only worth 60. How can you justify doing that? Out of your cash, you can't refinance out of it because typically lenders aren't going to refinance that low of a loan amount. You may be able to pull some out, but maybe a HELOC or something like that. But what else do we look at in that case? Cash flow. Let's say you can rent that house out for $1,500 a month. Well, $1,500 a month is what? $15,000, $18,000 a year. Don't quote me on that. I still need 6 credits to graduate junior college. But let's say, let me do the math. So let's say 1,500 times 12 is 18,000. 18,000 divided by the 80,000 you put in. Oops. That's a 22%, 22.5% return, cash on cash return over the first year. That's not a bad deal at all. All right. 4 years, the house is going to be more than paid off. You get all your money back out of it and you still have it. So I have to, again, even that, I have to look at, okay, well, do I want to be in this long term? And what is the opportunity cost of me deploying 80 grand? I can turn, and in that, it takes me 4 years to get all my money back out of it. I can turn that 80 grand into $500,000 in 4 years. So even more than that, right? I could probably turn it into $1 million. So, I got to teach people all of the things to look at.
We have a few questions, though.
Go ahead.
Valerie Robinson, second question. She said, how do you find the person? What site would you recommend to locate the trust?
Oh, well, if they don't want to be found, they ain't going to be found. Okay. but that trust has an address because they have to send the property taxes somewhere. So I can go into PropStream and just look at the mailing address and I'll just send it there. A real estate privacy trust or a land trust it only shields the beneficiaries. It doesn't shield the address of correspondence and stuff like that. So, all right. And I think was there another question from Valerie? I know Empress had a question and then we'll get to
Sandy. I have Kimberly Robinson and then I'll go to the next one. I think last name.
We got a couple people on stage too.
Yeah, let's go to Empress and then we'll go to Kimberly and then we'll go to Samby and then we'll go to the.
Okay, you got it.
How you doing, Empress?
Blessings. Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm doing well, thank you.
Wait a minute, sister. Where is that accent from?
I'm from London originally.
Look, I would say, look, I've had a lot of friends with some English accents over the years. It doesn't matter what they say; they all sound smarter than me. They could be saying anything. Go ahead, Empress. I'm sorry.
So I just wanted to ask, in regards to when you were stating about purchasing, I wouldn't say cheap, but a little less expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be good for you if you had a home inspection to check everything in the home? Would that help?
Oh, it absolutely would. The only thing is if you're buying it at a tax deed or an auction, they don't allow you to go in the home first. So you're limited in the amount of inspections that you can do on it. You can only do.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now
so you're buying it at. Go ahead.
Now, if you're buying it and it's not in a, let's say you're doing a campaign in a neighborhood and it's got some dilapidated homes, I will typically first look at what it's going to be worth when I'm done. Data point number 3, to determine how much I'm willing to pay for it, and then I'll take the rehab costs into consideration. And even if we don't know how to price out a rehab, we know if a house needs to be torn down or not. Like if you look at it and it's leaning, right, that's probably going to be a full rehab. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's something local, then I would pay a contractor to come over there with me and just have a look at it. Right. Once I get it under contract, have a contractor come over and you guys can do a scope of work, see what it's going to cost. Many times a home inspection is useless because it's going to tell you a bunch of stuff you already know. I bought 4 houses. One was a triplex and then 3 single family homes all on the same street. They all needed to be torn down. I didn't need a home inspection for that. Right. So it depends on the scenario.
Okay.
A home inspection is wise, especially if you're new, so you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
But it depends.
Okay. Thank you.
Amen. All right, let's go to Tavares, one of the chat questions, and then we'll come back and I believe Sam B has a question.
Could the family with the children have been tenants? Was there a homestead exemption?
Could have been anything. They could have been tenants. It could have been the next door neighbor just throwing their kids' stuff over there. It could have been anything. But I don't. Yeah, still. Yeah, it could have. You're right. Could have.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll never know.
You want to go?
God don't care, man. Look, God don't care. God cares about where you are in your spirit when you make the decision to disengage. Right? All the other stuff, it don't matter. Go ahead. Sam B. You got a question, Sam B?
And then we'll come back.
Yeah.
Oh, good afternoon, everybody. This is afternoon. I had to realize what time it was.
Hey.
So, what up, dude?
Detroit in the building.
Hey. So, Odis, I actually have a comment because I was riding through my neighborhood a couple of days ago, and I seen this house that was for sale. So I pulled over, and the whole porch was looking like it was about to fall.
Yep.
Or whatever. So I called the man. Now, by the way, this is a duplex.
Okay.
And I called. Well, before I called, I looked it up, and come to find out it was a woman named on there, and she has multiple houses that she bought a few years ago from Wayne County, and she bought that house for almost $5,000.
Okay.
And so when I was talking to the man about it, he told me that it was his property and he wanted $40,000 for it. But he was like, "But for you, baby girl, I give it to you for $35,000 because I want to buy crypto." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Wait a minute, what?" And so I asked him, "Okay, well, crypto." So I'm like, "Sir, so what about the rehab? What needs to be done?" "Oh, well, it's about $15,000 worth of work." So I'm like, "So you mean tell me since 1911, when the property was built, that it's only $15,000 worth of work done?"
Yeah.
He tells me he bought it a few years ago, and he's a carpenter, and so that's what he estimated it to be. I'm like, "Okay, sir, whatever." And so the property is only worth about 125, maybe 150.
Okay.
Odis, I ain't called that man back yet. He's looking for me to call him because I don't think it's his property. I think it's one of his family members, or he's scamming or whatever, because he told me that there's his homeboy living in there right now to protect the house. But Odis, there's a brand new house that was built probably about 20 years ago next to it that's completely tore up and vacant.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let's go back to this house first before I lose my train of thought. So when somebody tells me about a house that they want to sell me, I do not believe them. Not in a mean way. I just don't. I'm the investor. I'm supposed to know how much I'm willing to pay for that house. Now, that's the whole purpose of those 4 questions. What does it cost? Well, we don't know yet. He's saying he wants 35, 40 for it. What does it cost also translates into what am I willing to pay? Number 2, what does it cost to fix up? Well, we don't know yet. Maybe I haven't even been in the house. But if I can get that man on the phone, then I can get him to let me look inside. Data point number 3, that's where I go first. What's the growth potential, right? What's the maximum this thing will be worth? What's it going to be worth when I'm done with it? What are similar properties selling for? You got one falling down next door, so it can't be as promising as he would like you to believe. And then if it's a duplex, I take that into consideration. And data point number 4, how much income is it going to generate? Because if I know I'm going to keep this house, I know I'm going to put some debt on it. And I want to make sure that it'll generate enough income to service that debt. All right. So once you examine those 4 questions, it doesn't matter what he says, you'll be able to come back with an offer price based on what's in your buy box. Right. So it's going to be those same 4 questions all the time. Now, I'm strategic in how I would go about that, $35,000, you would do that for me? Oh man, I really appreciate. You know what? Let me go over write up a contract for $35,000. Now, am I actually going to pay $35,000? No, I'm not going to pay $35,000. But I got it in contract now. So what am I going to do? Hey, I know you said there was about 15,000 in repairs. Hey, I'm going to have a home inspection done just so I know what I'm not going to be around, right? Just so I know what I need to worry about when guess what that home inspection is going to come back? Probably about at least 35,000. If it was built in 1911, you're going to have, the plumbing is going to have to be replaced. Electrical is going to have to be replaced. It's likely going to need a new roof. I would check the foundation, right? You got the big five: plumbing, electrical, HVAC, roof, and foundation. Right? If all five of those are going to take a hit, then guess what I'm going to do on that contract? I'm going to say, hey, look, man, I got a property inspection here. It says that all of these things are wrong with the house. You told me 15. But I'll tell you what, here's a copy of the property inspection, because any material fact that impacts the value or sale of the home has to be disclosed under statute, 1 to 4 units. Basically, what that's saying is, once you know about it, you got to disclose it to people that you're selling it to, right? Now that's nuanced, but that's the gist of it. So I always have a trail of me emailing, electronic trail of me emailing him the property inspection. Now we're in contract. I'm going to ask him to credit me back for some of these repairs. But if he credits me back all $50,000 or $60,000, whatever it costs for the repairs, it's going to be negative something thousand. So I'll say, hey, look, man, I'll tell you what, let's just split it. Okay. Let's just split it. 60,000 in repairs. We'll go 30,000 a piece. You wanted 35. That's going to put us at 5,000. I want you to make some money on it. Let's do 15,000. Boom. Now I got $15,000 purchase price, 60,000 in repairs. That means I'm all in $75,000. So let's apply the 70% rule on that. It's going to be worth 120,000 times 70%. Oops. That's $84,000 minus the cost of repairs, minus 60,000. The maximum offer price is 24,000 under the 70% rule. That's the maximum offer price. And if I can get them down to 20 or 15, that's all right. So there's a way to deal with people when they are engaging that way. Now, I would open up escrow at an actual closing company, a title company, because I'm not sending any money to him directly. We send it into escrow. They're going to check that property and make sure he's the right person that owns it and make sure there's no clouds on title. So there's a way to manage that, Sam B. There's a way to do it.
Odis, I think he was trying to pressure me and whatnot, because he told me that he already had somebody with a purchase agreement just waiting for him to sign it. And I'm like, okay, sir, let me check with my partners. Yeah. I need to check with them first. Yeah. His whole tone changed. Yeah. Especially when I told him that one of my partners was a man, his whole tone changed. And so he was like, oh, okay, well then go ahead, take your time. I'm going to send you a text message with some more properties. He has not sent them.
No, he ain't. Hey, shout out to Eric Armstrong too on YouTube, man. I appreciate you, Eric. Go ahead, James.
Sam B, don't be mad at him for creating some urgency. You need to do the same thing. He doing his job by creating urgency.
But he didn't send it.
I should have said something to you, James, Tuesday night, but I didn't.
Yeah. It's all, and we're gonna run into that, right? We're gonna run into that, but we just have to know how to protect ourselves and use data-driven decisions. All right. So, all right, y'all. Look.
Thank y'all.
Hey, but he gave you a clue though. He said he was going to send you more properties. It sounds like he's a wholesaler. So
well, he never did.
Hang on to his info.
He didn't send it though.
That don't mean he's a good wholesaler, but hey, that's all right.
He was just trying to get off the phone. Yeah, let me go ahead and text you some more properties. Click. Tavares, go ahead, man.
This is from DeMarcus. How long should you wait to do a HELOC to invest in more property?
Now, I wouldn't wait. Yeah, I would do it now. It's almost like asking, well, how long do you want to wait before you make some more money? So a HELOC, I use any of the time, but the math, like I'm not going to, as long as you get a HELOC and you run the numbers and it's going to be a profitable situation, do it today. I would do it today. I probably would.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons you don't want to wait on that also, Otis, to your point is you got to be ready, right?
Yeah.
And HELOC is one of the best tools. I love HELOC, but you got to be ready. And there's a process that you got to go through to get your HELOC. And so if you see a good deal and you want to take advantage of it, we just had a conversation with Sam B about creating urgency, right? Well, if you now have to then go through a process to get your HELOC to be able to access the money to take advantage of that deal, it's going to take too long. You're not ready. You move too slow.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that I teach people from a business standpoint is, I have these attributes, these competencies of a successful real estate investor, right? I have them of all businesses, right? But of real estate investors, and one of them is the ability to be an action taker, right? You got to be somebody that takes action. We don't wait, and when you wait for things, what happens is you move too slow, and that causes two things to happen. One is things cost you more money, right? Because as things delay, they get more expensive. And then the other thing that happens is you miss out, right? You end up missing out on deals that can take place. And that affects the other thing that happens, the other side effect is, if I'm cutting out, just cut me off. But the other side effect is that affects the network around you. So, the network around you, it's like, ecosystem, and everybody's generating income off of these deals. And as you move too slow, that affects your ecosystem. That's not good.
Amen. And plus, if you got to ask, folks, our real estate family is only $5,000 to be in. That's not a lot of money at all. Like you wouldn't. That's a $25,000 program for $5,000. By the way, that's not. We keep it that low on purpose. It's not going to be that low forever. All right. So if you guys are looking to be, and I love these questions, man. I'll be on here answering questions probably for the next year or so. But if you guys want to be real estate investors, just jump on board. It's not expensive. And if $5,000 is expensive to you, then definitely don't do it. But don't get into real estate investing either. That's one property inspection on a multifamily building, right? So we keep it that low so it's attainable. So if you guys want to join our real estate family, or at least see what you get, right? I always tell people, vet me first. See what you get for that. All you guys are going to be impressed. All right. We got any more questions? Because we're about to wrap up. Folks, we will be in Houston, Texas. Oh, it's coming up. February 22nd. We will be there. We already sold out, but I'll open up a couple more spaces if folks are interested. Just go to our website under upcoming events, and you can register for that event. I think we're oversold by one. We're oversold by one ticket, but they'll work it out with me. So if you guys want to be real estate investors, that workshop should be the last workshop you ever go to. The reason I say that is because there's no other workshop opportunities that are going to exceed that, because it's not cost effective for companies to teach you that much for that little without you joining whatever it is that they're selling. That's just a business model. It's not that they're bad companies or bad people. It's not cost effective. Part of my marketing is people walking away from my workshops like, dang, he taught us all that and I only paid this. Well, let me see. And then you'll get out there and do the stuff, and then you'll have a different appreciation for what it means to have a mentor. Also, follow me on TikTok. We're trying to get to 1,000, and I think we're at like 70, right? We had to do a new TikTok page because the old one, they wouldn't let me go live. They had me stuck in the age verification process for 8 months. And I'm like, look, I promise I'm 18, but they wouldn't even. So I think there's something more to it. So we had to start a new page. So go ahead and follow us on TikTok and any other social media. Tavares, did you have? Go ahead. Who is that?
Rose.
Oh, what's up, Rose?
Hey, question.
You still got the phone icon over you. I thought you was on the phone this whole time. It's probably my Android.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
What streaming platform are you using to stream
StreamYard.
to multicast?
StreamYard.
StreamYard.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a TikTok.
I don't.
Does it have a TikTok option?
No, it does not.
Yeah, it does.
It does?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't. I don't.
You just have to fix it. So we can talk about it.
Okay. Well,
because I know with Restream, with Restream, you can actually go live if you connect your TikTok with Restream.
But what if
You don't have to wait for 1,000
but you have to be able to go
followers.
on? Oh, really? All right. Well, I'm gonna check it out.
So
No, you don't.
Okay.
No,
hey,
you don't have to.
Rose and Otis, there's a new thing now. You only have to have like I don't think that's the mandate anymore. It used to be like 750 or something like that followers. Now it's not even a thing anymore. They've limited, and I think you just have to have an account. You can go live with any account.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Okay, well, yeah.
Well, we gonna see. All right. Hey, Donovan, me and you got to connect to see when you want to do another episode.
Right? Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah. So hit me up and let me know when you want to do that. Folks, we're gonna wrap it up. Tavares, is there any other questions lingering out there?
Nope, we are all good. I just answered the last one. What was the name of the TikTok? So that's all.
Oh, amen. All right. So let me get this. Let me play this corny music so we can get up out of here, and we can.